Hi, I'm Warren Sprouse. This is the Bible Forum. You're watching it right now. We're here every Sunday night from 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. We look at life through a biblical lens and we try to solve all the problems of the world in 2 hours or less. I want to talk to you tonight about democracy versus oligarchy. You know, the rule of a few over the many. We've just involved with our newest election cycle. The 45th president, Donald Trump, got inaugurated this past weekend. It seemed like a good place to lay down some theory here, some practical understanding. A democratic system rests ultimately on the belief that each man is the best judge of his own interests and that he should have, through the ballot box, a voice in choosing those who govern him. Voting is the fundamental political right of citizens in a democracy. The right to vote is the right to influence officials and to influence policy. To be denied the vote is to be denied the guarantee that one's interests will be taken into account when said policies are made. There's no justifiable test of property, race, color, national origin, religion, or education for disenfranchising one class of citizens or another. The Voting Rights Act was passed to ensure that persons would not be kept out of the election process because of their personal characteristics such as race. However, since 1965, Democrats have refined much more subtle ways of denying the influence voters have on government policy. These new methods focus instead on party domination and the funding of programs that support Democrats. One of these new methods is illegal immigration, something every thinking American knows instinctively, if not by observation, is wrong. Illegal immigration has an impact on officials and policy. The immigrants are counted by the Census Bureau and go toward the total count of a congressional district. Congressional districts usually have populations between 500 and 700,000 people. So a state that has 700,000 illegal immigrants, like Illinois, has one extra congressional representative. These districts are carefully gerrymandered to ensure voters support the Democrat Party. The 4th District of Louis Gutierrez, for example, in Illinois, is particularly interesting. In 1982, it was found that over 80,000 illegal immigrants voted in Chicago. Another method, gerrymandering, is the practice of setting the outlines of a voting district along party lines. The goal is to maximize the number of friendly voters and minimize the number of unfriendly voters. However, illegal immigration has inspired a new type. And here's the strategy. While Chicago and other sanctuary cities may allow illegal immigrants to vote, Texas uses them as non-voters by creating state Senate districts that use illegal immigrant numbers to replace voting Republicans and non-voting illegal immigrants. This way, the minimum number of residents required for a Senate district is met, but met by using non-voting immigrants. And since illegal immigrants cluster in certain areas, all they have to do is move the Senate district boundary over to include illegal immigrants in sufficient numbers to destroy a Republican majority. Another factor is the national debt. While the connection seems remote, the national debt also has an impact on voting rights. In 2016, the amount of interest alone on the U.S. Treasury the Treasury paid on national debt was $432 billion. This money is not used for entitlement programs, education, or defense. In 2016, the total U.S. budget was $3.54 trillion. Every year, roughly $500 billion is spent on interest payments, which do nothing to pay for new programs, and every year $500 billion in debt is created, limiting the policy choices for people in the future. This relates directly to what Kirkpatrick said, quote, "The right to vote is the right to influence officials and policy," end of quote. In this scenario, the liberals always have a bargaining chip. We need more social spending. Vote for me and I'll get it for you. So the strategy of deficit spending each year is in reality a strategy of vote stealing. But it's far more destructive to democracy than just stealing somebody's vote in an election. These votes are stolen for decades. Or to put it another way, these votes go to support future policies of politicians who created the deficit in the first place. Now do you understand why deficits are more often created under Democrat leadership? You thought it was because they cared about poor people, didn't you? The Bush deficit was because of 9/11 and his efforts to minimize any future attacks. And that, of course, is not germane to the liberal Democrat. All they want to say is he raised the Democrats. He raised the deficit. That's all you hear. As with the founding of this great country, the critics said, so, what have you got? A republic, if we can keep it. That was Ben Franklin answering a question from a Philadelphia doctor as he, Franklin, was exiting the Constitutional Convention. A republic, if we can keep it. A government in which supreme power resides in the body of citizens entitled to vote and is exercised by elected officers and representatives responsible to them and governing according to law. Not primarily responsible to all citizens, but to those who are entitled to vote. They're the stakeholders. On the other side of that is a government dictated by an elite group of citizens who make a career of governing, which always leads to some form of corruption and the accumulation of power. We have moved from a republic to a federalist system. In federalism, the layers of government compete for control of function and programs. In the United States and other countries, the tendency over the years has been for the national government to become much more involved in areas that once were the exclusive domain of state or regional governments. In addition, the distribution of authority has become even more complex and varied with the rise of large metropolitan areas, the megalopolis, and corresponding new local governmental organizations such as the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey. This, along with career politicians who are generally re-elected, unless they do something truly outrageous, or the demographic of their district changes, has led government to a business where the leaders and their cronies benefit and the people are left to pay the bill. These people are slick. They're smart. Do you understand now?